Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm making this video. I'm in my bed. I have a pounding headache. My stomach hurts. And I'm so fed up with my store manager to the degree that I just couldn't go in today. My sanity is worth more than the shit that I have to go through at work because of one person and one person only. Now, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of context about what's going on because I had made a video a few days ago about possibly doing a career change. So, I'm just going to say briefly that I was hired by a company a few months ago, and it was a brand new store. So obviously there are going to be a few things that may go wrong. There were so many things that went wrong in the workplace. People, no calls, no shows, drinking on the job, coming to work intoxicated, having relationships with people at work, but bringing it to the job, discussing it at the job, and me having to work with the two individuals who are going through issues. And then I had to deal with being forced to do all the work, made to do the manager's job because he was not going to do it clearly, being followed around the store, harassed at work, talked to inappropriately in front of the customers, mocked in front of the customers. I'm a very happy person. So when I'm at work, I'm like, good morning, how are you? I don't expect the person who's a shift lead to literally mock me talking to the customer because they lack the ability to appropriately talk to the customer. You know, some people you can tell they're just putting on a show. It's so phony and fake. Customers know that. Customers know when somebody is happy to be at work and happy to serve them compared to somebody who's just going through the motions. And the biggest thing that I had to deal with, though, was the favoritism issue. Now, to some people, it's like, well, there's always going to be favorites. Managers should not have favorites. It's unethical. It causes and creates problems. Because then your favorites can do no wrong when they're clearly doing wrong. So it seemed as though the more that I spoke up about the store manager's favorites, the more I got harassed by their favorites, the more I was forced to do work, you know? And so, when enough is enough, you gotta go. Somebody's gotta go. So, let's just say there's an investigation held. And the job asked me not to talk about it. So I'm not mentioning names. I'm not mentioning the company. But in my personal life, I have the right to express how I feel about situations. All I'm going to say is that when the store manager saw me talking to their supervisor, the district manager, they tried to interfere. As soon as they left, they literally brushed up against me, put their hands on my shoulders while talking to me, inappropriate. And they never really did that before, even though they had subjected me to racist comments and comments that were sexual in nature. For example, somebody's bent over and they're doing a task, like I'm bent over to grab something. I don't need somebody walking in right behind me saying, damn, like really? So let's just say at the end of the day, because I did not feel safe, working with this individual. I did not know what else next they were going to do to me. I was given a transfer to another store. Told not to talk about it, which I didn't. When employees would ask me why I left, legally I can't talk about it, but I wish you the best. It's not a very big company. Surely people talk. I know that they talk for a fact because on my very first day at the new location, the store manager was talking to the assistant manager from my old store. Yeah, so I actually did a run through before I started the new location because I wanted to make sure that one, I knew how to get there and that I could see for myself any issues and the conditions of what I was getting myself into. I read the reviews. I actually read the reviews of every location for the company just to get an idea of how employees were feeling about the company, their experiences. You always want to find out, are you the only one this is happening to? Probably not. And the responses, well, the reviews that I read about the company in and of itself, terrible. Terrible. You know, people mention about not being trained, managers showing favoritism, having their hours cut, all kind of stuff. People just getting fired for no reason. You know, if it's at will, they can fire you for any reason. That's why a lot of people don't speak up when things go wrong at work because they don't want to be retaliated against. They don't want to be fired. And if you're working with somebody, a manager that is in control of your hours, thus dictates how much you are paid and if you're even paid at all, it's very hard to speak up. Despite the company, like most companies, having policies against harassment, against retaliation, and having an open door policy. So I was very grateful that the company transferred me because they could have just said, because I asked for that to occur, for the store manager to be fired. Because their performance, I had pictures, I had emails, I had everything. And I even pointed out specific rules that they were not following policies. That's how you do something. Even if you're being personally attacked, go by the book and show how you are being targeted if that's the case. And so that was the case. So my first day, well, before I started my first day, I had placed a mobile order to look at how that process was working because that was a complaint of the customers that they had to spend incredibly long times waiting for their beverages and their food. People said the store was dirty. The service was terrible at the location I was going to. I was like, what am I getting myself into? Now, they're supposed to contact you when something from your order is not fillable. This never occurred. When I get to the store to pick up my order, it's not even ready. And then I'm told that several of the items are not in stock. If you're advertising that you have something in stock, your inventory should reflect that. This is not like a huge warehouse store, you know, to where that might happen. You can quickly assess. So clearly, things like inventory is not being properly managed because we are supposed to count. They have what's called cycle counts, and we're supposed to count our items. Not all the items, but the list of items that's automatically pushed to us. And there's also not a stock report that we're supposed to verify and check items not found. So I knew that that was an issue. The conditions of the store, they were dirty. There was trash that was still there, tables that were dirty, and I looked at the flow of the traffic. I only saw one person as the barista, one person as the cashier, and one person as the manager. And they all were busy. So I used to be a mystery shopper. So when I go up to the register, I'm making small talk with the cashier. I'm like, is it always this busy? And, they're just like, no, they're usually not this busy. So I attribute it to the great weather. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the sun, but we're having some really nice weather for it to be the middle of February in Washington, D.C. It's normally cold. It's been like 60 degrees the past couple weeks. So when the weather's nice, people are going to come out. They're going to spend money. It's also close to a university. It's also in a tourist destination, So I'm looking at all these things. All right. So I even heard one of the managers say as they walked by, God damn, it's busy. I was like, yeah, it is, So there's some things I can overlook in terms of if it's busy, that probably could be an indication why the trash has not been taken out. The tables haven't been bussed. My order was not properly fulfilled. No worries. I just want to know what I'm getting myself into. The very first day that I started the job, I had asked a barista to ring up the customer. Getting acclimated to how they do things. Each store is different. So the barista had actually left the bar station without telling me, so I didn't know. I had to just jump on the barista line. I understand they have things to do, but again, it's my first day. So when I come back, there's a lot of customers. I asked them specifically, could you please assist the customers? I'm going to make the drink, because I'm making the drinks. They told me no, they were going to make the drinks. Really? So I asked them again. I said, I'll cover the drinks. Could you please help the customers? They looked at me, stared at me, and didn't say a word, and refused to help the customer. So I said, okay, this is my first day. I'm definitely going to have to sit down with the manager. So I sat down with the manager and them, and I explained what they did and what I asked them to do. And they completely were like, no, you told me. And I did no such thing. But you know what? It's my first day. I have to work with this individual. So, okay, I apologize if you took it that way. I want us to work together, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And I'm glad that we had this conversation. And I apologize if you felt offended by what I asked you to do. How I'm saying it, that is how I talk to people. Because I don't want anybody talking to me crazy. And I've had it happen multiple times. So honestly, that was water under the bridge. We've worked very well together since then. 2 days later, I get a request to swap a shift with another shift lead. No problem. I'll do it. And so I began working with a young man who likes to, guess what they like to do? Touch people and poke them when he's talking to them. Like, that's not appropriate. Why are you doing this? No, you need to stop. So I had to address that with him. I'm not a touchy-feely person. When you're talking to me, please don't touch me. There's no need to be doing that at work. And there's been several times I've had to remind him of this. It's still an ongoing issue. But I just try to look past it. Every time he does it, I say something. It's like, oh, last time I just had like, okay, this guy seems to have boundary issues. And he admitted to me that he was not aware that sometimes the way he says things are, how they're interpreted. Because I didn't say anything except to the shift lead that I switched with. I wound up getting COVID from that shift lead because that shift lead came back to work, did not provide a doctor's note, And I know this because they told me so. So I had to miss 2 whole weeks of work because of this individual. And because the manager did not make him give a negative result. Oh, it gets very interesting. Because, see, why I'm sick. So let's just say I got sick. I immediately took a test, sent the results to the manager, being responsible. I said CDC is recommending 5 days of quarantine, so I'm going to quarantine. On the 6th day, I'm going to take a test just to give myself enough time to feel better. And I'll report back to work. So please put me on the schedule for the 7th day. I think if a person has COVID, a week is a good amount of time to make sure that they get the rest that they need, that they're feeling better, and that they have a negative result. A store manager wants to argue with me about when the actual 5th day is, and that I should actually take the test on the 5th day and report back to work the next day and show them the results. I disagreed. And I was like, no. I am not putting my health at risk, and I'm not putting anybody in the store at risk. So it turns out that before the 5th day even occurs, my symptoms get worse to the degree I go to the emergency room and they put me in self-isolation because I live in a building, children and seniors. And you know what I mean? Come on. If they have the capability to isolate me to prevent an outbreak, let's do this. Because as it turns out, I had to report that I think there were like 3 or 4 or 5 people in my building that had got sick. So at one point I kind of felt like maybe I got it from the building, maybe I got it from work. More than likely got it from work, you know. And COVID cases were trending. So in my area, because I looked it up. Now, on my first day, I had went over my availability with the store manager. I went over what I was seeking in terms of not discussing why I transferred, but just saying some of the issues with my schedule I had experienced. And I asked, will I be able to get full-time hours here? I was told yes. Told them that I did not prefer to open on Saturdays or Sundays just because of where I live. Transportation does not allow me to get there without taking an Uber, without paying for that expense. I was paying $30 each trip for the previous location. So this location is a little bit further. Told that would be okay. Was asked about my experience. I was always on the opening shift and I had just got promoted. So I hadn't had a chance to get formal training. People just showing you a few things here and there is not the same as formal training. It's not. And that's why stores have labor hours and they have training hours. So whenever you have somebody new, because they had several new employees, you're supposed to be allotted training hours so it doesn't mess with your actual hours. Kind of like a shadow shift in a sense. So how she forgot all this is beyond me. Maybe she didn't write it down. Maybe she has issues paying attention. Nonetheless, I'm trying to recover at home. I'm getting texts. So what is your experience again? I said I am fine opening because I was at opening. And, you know, I didn't say as I mentioned before, but that's how I felt. I was like, I have not closed a shift. So I would like to have that training to make sure that I close the shift properly because there are many things you have to do. And specifically with dealing with coffee and espresso, you have to follow the correct ratios for cleaning, the cleaning solution, how to clean the machine so people don't get sick. Well, she replies, okay, when the stores open up, because they were opening more stores in my area. We will get you trained. So I would have to wait 2 months to be trained. No, I said, that's like a setup right there. So I was like, well, actually, I've already observed one of the team members doing the closing procedures. And there's only a few things I just need to go over. So could this person or that person who's been showing me other stuff too? Because to me, yes, having shift managers train other shift managers is good. Only if you have the hours set aside for them to do so. Because they're trying to just show me stuff. They're not showing me everything while they're trying to do their job. And every job that I've worked at, you have training hours and you have, scheduled shift hours. So, they agreed. Sorry, I'm tired. They agreed. And they said when I got back that they would have me shadow a shift with another shift manager. That never happened. They also said that they would have another training session with me to do the inventory, the receiving, and things of that nature. That never happened. So I come back. Oh, wait, let me back up. So I specifically told them and submitted proof that I was quarantined by this government program and put into a motel. And that they were paying for the hotel. And I was not allowed to leave the hotel. That is to prevent an outbreak. And that I would take a test. I believe it was the 17th, which was the 10th day. Because once your symptoms become worse, the clock starts over. So I did everything by the book, procedural wise. And so I sent another text on the 13th to remind them that I would be taking a test on the 17th and that my symptoms were getting a little better. So more than likely, if they could start scheduling me starting the 19th, because I'm missing money, I'm missing work. But my health comes first. And why are they texting me early in the morning, waking me up on a Sunday? When am I coming back to work? When am I going to be retested? Like, we didn't have this conversation already. It's all in text. And so I felt like I'd been rushed to come back to work. So I said, you know what? Let me just get a test. I ordered one. Finally found Target that would be able to deliver one to my motel room. And they did. And I took the test. When it arrived, it was negative. She didn't tell me what time she was doing the schedule or anything like that. She just said she was doing the schedule that day. She could have reached out to me the day before, waking me up in the morning to respond to a text. First of all, I'm not paid for off-the-clock communication. So I have an issue with, I don't mind responding to a text if it's a small text, if it's something that I need to know. But when you're using group chat and group text as a way to just ask people the most random things. And when I say random, they literally send text messages at all times of day, in regards to the hour. Who moved this box? Who moved this? Who did that? Well, clearly you should know who moved it because you know who worked the night before. And then it's like you're talking to people like they're children. Like, who touched this? Who touched that? It's not hard to say to whoever moved this box, please don't do this, and here's the reason why. Just always accusing people. So I texted them a response back, my test results. Okay, I can come back to work as early as the 19th, as I had mentioned before. I didn't come back to work till the 23rd. Oh, I wish you would have told me this earlier. I was doing, and I have to read the schedule over. I didn't know what time we were doing the schedule. I actually did this to try to accommodate you. Okay? Yeah, I did. And I have all the text to prove it. So I get back to work. And I showed a negative result. And I just wondered, did James ever show negative results? Well, I found out just the other day. He did not, because he told me so. He had actually gotten written up. I mentioned his name, my bad. Was a new location anyway, so. He told me he got written up. He said that the store manager just scheduled him, and so he showed up to work. And he said he did not know. Like, he had submitted paperwork from his to prove he had it, but he didn't submit anything to prove that he was cleared. Because I had a feeling she doesn't have the same energy, the store manager, for other employees. Also, it was told to the store manager that several people have felt uncomfortable working with this individual, how he talked to them and treated them. She will send text messages. This was odd. That there was a can of Budweiser in the walk-in freezer. We don't even sell Budweiser. So somebody would have had to bring that with them to work. I know for a fact it was not on my shift. And of course, somebody's gonna own up to the can, really. You're sending text messages, who left this behind? Oh my God. They do have cameras in some locations. So at some point, unless the person, you probably more than likely would have seen them enter the walk-in with it, because we don't sell it. We do sell beer and wine in the walk-in, but that's not the type that we sell. So they would have had to have it concealed on their body in order to bring it in the walk-in and drink. And then I just don't see why somebody needs to be drinking beer in the walk-in. Whatever. I've seen worse things happen. I've actually caught employees drinking at the previous jobs. I'm like, oh my God, is this a nightmare? Am I being punked? Because why does it feel like I'm going through the exact same things that I went through at the previous store? And so that's why I was very cautious about saying anything. Because I didn't want to be labeled as a complainer. I didn't want to be labeled as a troublemaker. Or made to feel like it's just me always having issues with people. Not the case. So, let's see what else. So I get to work. And I'm working shifts with people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Except for they've all been working there longer than me. They actually hired a shift lead who works as a shift lead at another store, a different type of store. And I remember my first day, he's like, so where you have management experience at? I'm like, the military, the government, a lot of places. Because when people start asking you that, they're trying to size you up. And immediately, he would always have the excuse, I don't know how to do it. Nothing wrong with asking. If I don't know how to do something, I ask him how to do it. He's not being trained. So I already know my training was non-existent. His training was non-existent. And it showed when I had to work a shift with him a few days ago. In fact, 3 days in a row, I've had to report issues with the performance. Wait, let me begin by saying I was asked to report issues on 2 particular individuals and their performance. So management was already aware of the issues. One guy just likes to be on his phone all the shit. And then he even brings his earbuds to work, thinking we don't know he's on the phone. We can hear. Every time I would come by him, he's on the phone. He would just stop talking. And I didn't want to bust him out. Like, I know you're on the phone. You're not supposed to be on the phone. I would be nice. Wait till he's done. You know you're not supposed to be on the phone. Can you please not do that? I need you to focus on the attention at hand. Because I'm trusting people who have already been working in a store in that particular location longer than me to know how to do their job. Because I don't like to micromanage. I shouldn't have to check behind you to make sure you did what you're supposed to do. I should be able to trust you as an adult because I write in my report who's responsible for what. And I tell you this so you know that you're going to be held accountable if it's not done. And sure enough, he did a very poor job. And it got mentioned by the store manager that, oh my God, see, the store was not clean, it was not this. So I spoke up, I took accountability as the shift manager. I was trusting him to do his job, trusting that he had the training and knew how to. Now that I see that that is not the case, I will check behind him. I will check behind everyone to make sure that this does not occur. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it, as I like to learn. They also accused me of not doing something that I clearly did. So I'm like, damn, they wrote a whole 4-point bulletin about my shift. But that's all they could really say, was that I addressed that. And I also addressed, whatever it is that they wanted. Because every day it changes. They want this done at a certain time, that done at a certain time. But you're not communicating that to me and to everyone. You have group chat. Why not use that? Nope. And I started to look at that the workload is not realistic in terms of the workflow and the time allotted. The store closes at 10. Why is she scheduling people to leave at 10? If you were to leave exactly at 10 when the store closed, majority of the stuff wouldn't get done because there's just some stuff you cannot do with customers in the store. And a lot of times we gotta keep the customers out the store. Like, damn, go home. So technically, anybody that was to stay past 10 o'clock is already late. How are you expecting people to leave at 10 and the store closed at 10? Industry standards is 30 minutes after a store closes. Some places even an hour. But they want you to do the procedures and do them correctly. Your attention should be focused during your shift on getting as many pre-closing things or pre-opening things as you can. Hold on.